Feel about your DMs with Drake being leaked to the world?
My DMs were never leaked. It's not my DMs.
There's a lot of people posting DMs.
I don't know why they
allegedly-
think
Y'all was saying some weird shit, bro. I wasn't gonna say
Hold on,
nothing.
it-
Because you my brother.
A
No.
lot of it
not
was
my DMs.
grand, but some of it.
Why
looked like
was
it
you
too,
comparing
right?
briefs?
No, what?
Now, when it comes to Mega Karen himself, yeah, Drake, you already know why we're here today. If you're ready to break down the most anti-hip-hop stunts this man has ever pulled, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe because this is about to get messy. Drake has crossed a line so reckless that at this point it's either you stand with him or you stand with hip-hop itself. Show love to the culture. Smash that like and let's make sure hip-hop wins while Drake and his little circus crew take the biggest L of their lives. Right now, with him dragging this not like us mess into court, we're watching a level of desperation that's off the charts even for Drake. And that says a lot because Drake's career has never been clean. He's had plenty of messy moments, but this right here, this is something hip-hop has never seen before. The way he's moving is unreal. From dragging Kendrick Lamar's kids and family into his verses to poking at Whitney and Kendrick's past to twisting up Dave Free's DNA and even pulling in names like Pusha T and Screwface G, Drake is throwing everything he can find at the wall. But instead of looking powerful, it's looking desperate. Straight up embarrassing. And while all this chaos is exploding, the grown men hiding behind fake burner accounts with women's profile pictures are out here celebrating like Drake just won a championship. Let's be real, nobody's fooled. We know you're not women. We know exactly who you are, and all you do is flood timelines just to irritate everybody. It's cringe. The louder you cheer, the clearer it gets that Drake might have just hit rock bottom. But here's the bad news for every die-hard Drake defender out there. Not only is he never getting away with these wild demands and delusions, but whatever little respect he had left in hip-hop, yeah, that card is officially declined. He's out the game. From now on, his title is permanent. Last name Karen, first name lamest. Nothing more, nothing less. Even the biggest Drake fans who used to push the fake story that he was somehow doing this to the culture have been forced to admit the truth. He's not saving anything. He's not protecting hip-hop. What's really happening here is a petty, personal mission to get under Kendrick Lamar's skin and anyone else who's ever bruised his ego. That's the real play, and it's uglier than anything we've ever seen from him before. Just look at the outrageous requests he's making in this case. The kind of dirt he's trying to dig up serves no purpose except to stir chaos. There's no other reason to chase this info unless your only goal is to create the messiest spectacle possible. This whole thing is nonsense stacked on top of nonsense, so much that even the sharpest minds couldn't fully process the circus Drake is putting on. And it's not just him either. The people standing behind him, validating his delusions, dragging this case out again and again, they are just as much part of this Mega Karen squad as he is. None of them are chasing truth. None of them are chasing justice. This is all ego, clout, and noise. And wasn't the whole point of the system supposed to be about fairness and truth? Drake turned it into a joke. Instead of focusing on music, instead of letting the culture breathe, Drake is doing everything in his power to turn Kendrick Lamar's life into a non-stop headache. Dragging Kendrick's kids and family into official paperwork? That's not just petty. It's messy, shameless, and downright disgusting. We've seen rappers throw shade before, but this level of disrespect is something hip-hop rarely, if ever, has witnessed. And the deeper you read into it, the uglier it gets. Every line exposes Drake for exactly what he is, everybody's least favorite Karen having the meltdown of his career. At this point, it doesn't even read like legal arguments. It reads like a temper tantrum printed in black and white. What's supposed to be about not like us, and Kendrick Lamar quickly turns into Drake whining about every grudge he's been holding. And it's pathetic. One of the most shocking parts? Drake openly admitting that he used his label connections to silence Pusha T. Not just censoring the story of Adidon, but every single thing Pusha dropped. Imagine the audacity. An artist who claims to love the culture working behind the scenes to mute another rapper's voice. And then when the label didn't censor Kendrick, Drake started crying that it's unfair. That's entitlement at its peak. Honestly, this is shameful not just for Drake, but for the entire industry that enabled this nonsense. How did hip-hop get to a point where one of its biggest names feels entitled to silence his peers just because his ego can't handle the smoke? That's spoiled behavior, selfish behavior, and it exposes Drake for what he really is, a man willing to bend every rule just to protect his fragile image. And let's be real, how does he think he has a right to censor a rapper who's been bigger, sharper, and more respected than him in every way that actually matters? That's the part that completely blows Drake's cover. No matter how much noise he makes or how many excuses he drags into court, this one move has permanently stained his reputation. Strip away all the fake arguments and courtroom drama, and what you're left with is a meltdown of a Karen who's been keening for over a decade straight. The difference now is there are no more managers to shield him, no handlers to clean up the mess. So he's lashing out, burning bridges, and setting fire to everything around him, including his own legacy. This case doesn't just expose weak arguments, it exposes Drake himself. The entitled, petty, and insecure side of him that peers and fans have whispered about for years is now on full display in black and white. And here's the wildest part. It reveals something even his most loyal fans won't want to admit. Drake is flat-out obsessed with Kendrick Lamar. Not obsessed like a worthy rival. Not competitive in a respectful way. But in a full-blown, unhealthy, Eminem stan type of way. Because who else sits there demanding every piece of paperwork, every scrap of history tied to Kendrick, even down to DNA tests involving his kids and his connections with Dayfree? That's not beef. That's fixation. And it's as disturbing as it is embarrassing. And then there's the whole mess with Whitney. What Drake said about her on Family Matters, plus dragging Dayfree's name into it by demanding DNA involvement. Drake's obsession has spun so far out of control that he seems to care more about Kendrick's family and kids than his own home. That's not rivalry. That's creepy obsession dressed up as legal paperwork. And here's where it gets even crazier. The deeper you process what Drake is actually trying to dig into, the more unhinged it looks. His requests about Dayfree, Kendrick's kids, and anything tied to Whitney all circle back to the same contradiction. Everything he's chasing is based on nothing but the lyrics from Family Matters. That's it. No evidence. No real foundation. Just Drake taking his rap beef and turning it into a courtroom soap opera. The very track where Drake thought he was dropping bombshells is now being twisted into a legal excuse to snoop into Kendrick's life. And the irony is painful. Drake is literally using his own diss track as the blueprint for these insane courtroom requests. The same so-called gotcha lines he rapped about are now the very claims he's trying to push as evidence. That's not strategy, that's delusion. He's trying to turn rap lyrics into court documents, and it shows just how far he's fallen. And that's what makes this one of the most embarrassing parts of the entire mess. Drake is out here taking his own fabricated bars, lines never backed up with facts, and try to pass them off in court like they're real evidence. Imagine reaching the point where you're begging the legal system to validate the lies you spit in a diss track. That's not just desperation. That's the ultimate contradiction, and it makes the entire case look like the circus it really is. First off, let's call it what it is. Drake never had a shred of proof behind the wild things he said about Kendrick in the first place. And now it's all coming back to haunt him. This lawsuit doesn't just make Drake look desperate, it poisons hip-hop itself. The second you see his lyrics flipped into legal demands to invade Kendrick's private life, you realize this isn't about music anymore. It's about tearing down artistic expression at its very core. And don't think rappers everywhere aren't paying attention. The way Drake is moving right now will make every artist second guess how far they go in beefs, because nobody wants their bars turned into subpoenas. Drake is requesting every detail of Kendrick's life, professional and personal, and it's crossing a line no one expected. He's not just poking into record deals, he's even demanding the full value of Kendrick's entire music catalog. Think about how insane that is. He's reaching so far that he wants numbers on Good Kid, Mad City like it's some kind of smoking gun. From DNA tests to financial breakdowns, Drake's case has turned into a circus with zero connection to Not Like Us or the beef itself. All he's really doing is dragging Kendrick's name and his family deeper into a mess that should have never left the booth. Every time his lawyers chase these wild demands, it forces people to pry into Kendrick's world for nothing but Drake's ego trip. And that's a clearest sign this was never about justice. It's obsession gone too far. Let's not sugarcoat it. There's no mystery here. Drake has never made it clearer that he's flat-out obsessed with Kendrick Lamar. The timing makes it even wilder. 2. The fact that this all exploded right around the anniversary of Control feels almost poetic, like history repeating itself. Only now, Drake looks more desperate than ever. What we're watching is the ultimate grift. Drake, one of the biggest manipulators hip-hop has ever seen, is trying to ruin Kendrick's life in the pettiest way possible. Not through music, not through bars, but by prying into his personal life and dragging him through endless legal distractions. He couldn't win with the music, so now is whining in the courtroom, waving the Karen flag higher than ever. These aren't power moves. They are last-ditch efforts from a man who already lost a real battle. Instead of making a great record or building a stronger strategy, Drake's entire focus is just to irritate and harass Kendrick in the most invasive ways possible. That's not hip-hop. That's obsession dressed up as litigation. And when you stack this circus on top of Drake admitting he censored Pusha T, the picture is crystal clear. Drake is willing to throw away his reputation, his credibility, and maybe even his entire career just for some twisted sense of revenge against Kendrick. Think about that for a second. Drake is risking everything, not to elevate himself, but just to drag someone else down. That's not the mark of a competitor. That's the mark of a man who already lost. But I guess actually making a great track was too hard for him, and that's why we're stuck in this circus today. Sure, there's more we could unpack, like how he's even dragging content creators like Screwface Gene into this madness. But here's the real takeaway. If you're part of hip-hop or anywhere close to the culture, you can't ignore what's happening right now. At this point, the line is crystal clear. You're either standing with the culture or you're standing with Drake. There's no middle ground. And let's be real, if you're siding with Drake, you can't honestly call yourself a rap fan anymore. Because in the 52-year history of hip-hop, we've never seen one figure dismantle the very essence of the culture the way Drake just has through these court papers. This isn't just messy. It's historic, for all the wrong reasons. And don't think the OVO stands hiding behind fake profile pics are fooling anybody. They can scream Drake is winning all day long, but the receipts tell a completely different story. Drake literally admitted he censored Pusha T for years, straight from his own mouth, and now is furious because he couldn't pull the same strings on Kendrick Lamar. That's not victory. That's guilt. And it proves Drake's been manipulating the game behind the scenes the entire time. Well, listen, at this point, all we can really do is lean on the words of Pusha T, Malice, and the clips, let God sort him out. Because honestly, what else can you say when Drake has turned this into one of the nastiest, pettiest meltdowns hip-hop has ever seen? So now I gotta ask you, what's the wildest part of this whole mess to you? What's the moment that made you shake your head the hardest? And more importantly, how do you feel about the way Drake has dragged the culture down to this disgusting low? For me, just watching it unfold has been exhausting. It makes me want to turn off all the noise, throw on some real rap, and forget Drake ever existed. But trust me, the conversations are only getting louder from here. I'm curious to see what voices like Jeff have to say about this chaos too, because the culture is wide awake now. And if you made it this far, it means you care about protecting hip-hop as much as I do. So make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video to keep the truth alive. It helps more than you know. And if you really want to see how Drake was already hinting that he was about to crash out on Kendrick before this lawsuit even hit, his last live show gave it all away. Go check out the suggested video right now, because it connects all the dots.